Tonight, the BBC Philharmonic Orchestra celebrates its 50th anniversary with a concert featuring the world premiere of Peter Maxwell Davies' Third Symphony. The concert also includes a performance of Tchaikovsky's Violin Concerto, in which the soloist is Sylvia Markovich. Edward Downes conducts the BBC Philharmonic Orchestra in an anniversary concert tonight at 8:05 on BBC2. In 15 minutes, France Actuelle. Now on BBC2, the news and sport with Jan Leeming and Mark Austin.
Yorkshire miners' leaders narrowly vote to stay on strike until sacked men are reinstated. Northern Ireland's Chief Constable speaks of a tragedy without precedent as 3 police officers are laid to rest. In sport, Wales come from behind at Murrayfield. And in the European Championship, a gold medal for Britain. Miners' delegates from Britain's biggest coalfield, Yorkshire, have been meeting to decide their position before tomorrow's full delegate conference of the NUM, which could end the strike. They reaffirmed Yorkshire's decision to stay out until the Coal Board agrees to an amnesty for sacked strikers. But the vote was very close, a majority of only 4 votes out of 1,100. The smaller Kent coalfield also voted to stay out. Now, tomorrow's special conference may have no clear mandate for either staying out or going back. First, from Yorkshire, John Thorne.
Union leaders on the Yorkshire coalfield arrived this afternoon with conflicting views from the rank and file on the return to work. Even some of the most solid branches had voted only narrowly to continue the strike unless all 700 sacked miners were reinstated. The area council was in session less than 30 minutes, and at first, in a show of hands, the resolution to continue the strike was defeated. But the departing delegates revealed that that decision was reversed on a card vote by the narrowest of majorities. It leaves the Yorkshire delegates in the minority at tomorrow's national conference, but branch officials believe they had no option.
We'll go and argue like fury for an amnesty, but if we lose that, or whatever happens, we'll be reporting back here on Monday, and the Yorkshire Air will have to reassess the situation. In the meantime, of course, we would urge all of our members to stay solid and stick with the union like they've done these 12 months.
But the area president was careful to stress that Yorkshire miners would obey the national NUM decision.
Well, we're part of the National Union, and I would hope that Yorkshire are always part of the National Union, and we shall carry out the democratic decisions that are carried out within the Union.
Representatives of Kent's 3 collieries met in Dover, knowing that feelings against coal board sackings in this militant area are running high. The executive is fighting for the reinstatement of all 40 men before, not after, a return to work. Last June, 29 Kent miners were sacked after a 3-day sit-in at Betshanger colliery. 6 miners stayed underground throughout, and all the men involved were dismissed for what the Coal Board calls gross industrial misconduct.
We say quite clearly that the men that have been sacked for carrying out union policy should not be left on the side of the road at the end of the strike.
So the Kent miners will go to the National Delegate Conference tomorrow, still adamant there should be no return to work without a complete amnesty for sacked strikers. Even if the Delegate Conference does vote for an end to the strike, the Kent executives say it will be up to a mass meeting of miners here on Monday to determine whether or not they should abide by the national decision.
Delegates from the Lancashire coalfield met in Bolton and unanimously accepted their executive's recommendation to return without a settlement. 80% of the area's 6,000 miners are already at work, but today's decision for an orderly return was clearly an emotional one.
Miss Maggie Thatcher's been crushing us, and the only way we can retain our dignity is go back and regroup and carry on with the fight. We are not beaten.
Today's votes make tomorrow's NUM delegate conference a very uncertain affair. The outcome could be close, and that could mean the strike won't have a clear-cut end. It had been expected that miners wanting a return to work would get their way, but the issue of the amnesty has complicated things. Areas wanting to go back, whether there's one or not, are South Wales, North Wales, Lancashire, Northumberland, Leicestershire and the colliery staff section, COSA. They can muster about 40 votes. Hardliners wanting to stay out till an amnesty is declared are Yorkshire, Scotland and Kent, and, less enthusiastically, North Derbyshire and Durham. They carry around 48 votes. To win a simple majority at tomorrow's conference, one side or the other needs 60 votes. So neither camp, as things stand, will win. It's very fluid, but the pro-amnesty lobby is growing increasingly confident, and they expect the NUM President, Arthur Scargill, to side with them. They know that Michael Eaton, the Coal Board spokesman, has ruled out a general amnesty, but the Coal Board might reinstate men convicted of lesser offences. So a full amnesty simply isn't available, and if delegates still go ahead and vote for one, they will in effect be prolonging the strike, despite the massive surge back to work expected for Monday. Whichever way it goes, it now looks certain that the miners will be going back without an agreement. But tonight there was a new twist on that, when Whitehall sources suggested that the Coal Board might withhold the miners' outstanding pay rises till a deal on pit closures is signed.
Funerals have been held in Northern Ireland for 3 of the 9 police officers killed in Thursday's IRA mortar attack at Newry. Constable David Topping, WPC Rosemary McGuckin and Reserve Constable Geoffrey Campbell were buried this afternoon near their homes. The Royal Ulster Constabulary was today still questioning a number of people about the attack.
The Chief Constable of the RUC, Sir John Herman, arrived back in Northern Ireland today to join his force in mourning. He was at the funeral of Rosemary McGuckin, one of the 2 women police constables killed at Newry. He called it a tragedy without precedent in the British police force, but he said the comradeship and commitment of the RUC had never been stronger than now in the midst of its sorrow. He expressed a resolve to bring to justice the evil people terrorising the community. Rosemary McGuckin's uncle is Alan Wright, the chairman of the Police Federation in Northern Ireland, now experiencing for himself the personal grief he'd shared with the families of so many officers in the province. 24-year-old Reserve Constable Geoffrey Campbell was one of the 3 officers buried this afternoon. He'd been in the RUC for only a month. His 20-year-old widow, Louise, is expecting their first child. Among the senior police officers at the funeral was the divisional commander for Newry, Bill Stewart, who'd been in the canteen only minutes before the mortar struck it. Ian Paisley conducted the service. He was the first politician on the scene of the carnage at Newry Police Station. 22-year-old Constable Peter Topping from Lurgan joined the RUC last year. He belonged to a body described by his Chief Constable today as an extraordinary group of men and women doing an extraordinary job and paying an extraordinary sacrifice. Last night, outside Newry Police Station, 500 people took part in a procession to express their revulsion of what had happened in the middle of their community. There was also a vigil, silent and emotional.
Just to let people see that everybody in Newry isn't bad.
I'm not all bad. Do you think it'll have very much of an effect? I hope it does. I hope it does.
Armed police shot and injured a man in North London this afternoon. The police intercepted 3 men who they believed were about to rob a Securicorps van collecting the day's takings from Bijams in Islington. The police fired 2 shots, wounding 1 man in the chest or stomach. He's said to be in a serious condition. They later said they'd found a Colt revolver at the scene. Eyewitnesses said the police, in an unmarked car, crashed into the alleged robber's car and that 2 shots were fired.